Hello students, welcome to EPG Patashala. I'm Dr. K.R. Rammohan, Associate Professor and Head Department of Anthropology, Sikkim University. Today we are going to talk a module on the contributions of D.N. Majumdar, Warrior Elwin, G.S. Ghuriye and Irawati Karve. This module comes in the paper Theories and Methods in Social and Cultural Anthropology. So before we go this module, let us see what are the learning objectives. To study the contribution of these eminent anthropologists, Dhirendranath Majumdar, Irawati Karve, Warrior Elwin and G.S. Ghuriye. To study the life histories of these anthropologists, to know about the theories and concepts propounded by these eminent anthropologists. So D.N. Majumdar, born in 1903 till 1960. So what are Majumdar's contributions to socio-cultural anthropology? His significant contributions in anthropology is the study of the tribal culture. Majumdar followed the functionalist approach given by Malinowski in studying culture. In his fieldwork research, Majumdar claimed that the whole tribal community were being affected due to external pressures. Majumdar did not support the idea of that tribes should be reserved or the tribal reserve area, that tribes should be isolated from the mainstream Indian society. Instead, Majumdar believed that the tribal communities should be well integrated into the Indian mainstream society or the Indian society at large. Majumdar believed that the dominant groups should give and respect and take them as human beings and not as the backward communities. With regard to social change, Majumdar opined that social change is necessary for any community, but it should not be disruptive and it should be in continuity with the existing cultural traditions, in a sense that communities must change, community must get transformed, but not at the core of their strong traditional values, customs and traditions. So in his famous book, A Tribe in Transition, A Study in Culture Pattern, Majumdar studied the impact of modern civilization upon Indian tribal communities. So perhaps he is the first Indian anthropologist to study and write about the impact of non-tribal communities on various institutions on tribal communities. So in his book, The Fortunes of Primitive Tribes, provided an account of social and cultural life of various tribes of Uttar Pradesh. With this, Majumdar produced the ethnographic accounts of the Ho in Bihar, the Kasa, the Korwa, the Tharu, and the Gonds of Bastar in Madhya Pradesh. Additionally, he also did on the Bills of Gujarat, because the Bills are considered to be as the criminal tribes according to the erstwhile British classification system. Majumdar also conducted fieldwork by learning the local dialects and covered major aspects of this relation between culture and economics, the kinship systems, marriage patterns, and the religion. Majumdar did not restrict himself only to the tribal studies. He has expanded his ethnographic sites and believed that an anthropologist should also study various social communities in different geographical locations. So he did a lot of rural studies, and Majumdar played an important role in encouraging village studies in India. And Majumdar presented a model of anthropological village study in his book titled Caste and Communication in an Indian Village, where Majumdar stated that an anthropologist and sociologist can play a decisive role in studying how the problems of these backward classes and assessing the impact of community development programs targeted in this village in the developmental agenda, in a sense that the role of sociologists and anthropologists is immense, where they can reach to these communities at village level. So thus, anthropologists can help government and administration to come out and develop suitable alternative strategies for both tribal as well as backward classes and look into the implementation process. Let us understand the significant contributions of Irawati Karve, born in 1905 till 1970. Karve's contribution to socio-cultural anthropology is noteworthy, particularly the study of kinship system in India. Irawati Karve's book on the kinship organization in India, first published in 1953, is considered a renowned work depicting several facets of family structure in India. She basically categorized the country into four different cultural zones in accordance with the marriage practices. And the four cultural zones are the northern, the central, the southern, and the eastern. With this, there are three important concepts which has to be studied in detail, are the linguistic regions, institution of caste and family organization are necessary to understand any cultural phenomena, particularly in the Indian context. Without understanding these three patterns, one cannot understand the entire social fabric of India. In a sense, for Carve, the kinship organization exhibits the linguistic pattern, but in some aspects, you can find deviations. As, according to her, though the Maharashtra region belongs to the area of Sanskrit languages, but its kinship organization is related to Dravidian or South Indian kinship system, the cross-cousin marriage. So according to Irawati Karve, caste is an hereditary endogamous group which is restricted to linguistic region. Endogamous in a sense, people marrying within their own caste group. So for the first time, caste is like an extended kin group. And the caste members share a particular occupation which is hereditary, and the castes are put in different ranks in a social order which gives the social stratification in any given geographical area. So another important concept Carve has put in perspective is the joint family system. She stressed the need to understand how a joint family system operates and how does it contribute to the wider social structure. In a sense, to see the family system has been compatible with the existing agrarian background of Indian economy, because all villagers are basically agrarian, agricultural production based economy. So joint family is in tune with the economy. They are interrelated. They are not per se. So joint family is a group of kins of several generations ruled by one single head, in which there is a joint residence, a hearth where all the food is cooked, and property is maintained jointly so that the property will not get into bits and pieces. And there is a deep sense of members in this family. They are bound together for mutual obligation. And the eldest male member has the privilege of holding certain rights. And Carve felt that the joint family system perhaps could have worked like an autonomous unit on its own, with its different property rights, with marriage rules, with customs, traditions. And it is also an economic unit where all members contribute to the whole property, where there is no employment insecurity among the members. And the kinship is organization is based on these relations. And this is how different cultural zones can be understood through marriages. And Carve could point out how these different cultural zones are differing in this economy and marriage rules. Carve's significant contribution is the dynamics of group relations in village. In one of her book, Group Relations in Village Community, Karve describes the villages in Maharashtra to examine how it has been operating. Both quantitative and qualitative data were collected, and to test the hypothesis of structuring of interpersonal and intergroup relations with reference to kinship, caste, and locality. How these three things are related. And for the first time, it has been quantified along with all the qualitative features. So Carver felt that the boundaries of kin and caste existed in various types of interdependence governed by economic relations, economic interdependence, where there is an extended social intercourse, how the traditional values are being safeguarded and promoted from one generation to another generation through the caste system, and how the entire social life is governed by these relations through joint families. And she'd also pointed out there is a social stratification within the village where the scheduled castes did not take place in the rural economy. And there was problem in afflicting these people. While Carve studying these villages was also interested how a village grows and what are the dynamics involved when a village is expanding, transforming. So a place in Satara, Faltan, 23 villages had been studied, and to see how the economy is changing because of the weekly markets. So she could see the continuum between the village and urban centers with reference to education, religion, communication, economic and social relations are being expanded. And they proposed a model of building of communities where they can interact with each other. Another important thinker in Indian anthropology, which has given a lot of ethnographic work, is Vidya Elwin, born in 1902 or survived till 1964. Elwin was very famous with many studies on many tribal communities, and his famous fieldwork is among the Baigas. So Elwin, working for the British government, has done a lot of ethnographic fieldworks and found that Baiga were being disturbed or destroyed by the landlords, by the Christian missionaries. And Elwin suggested that the state should prevent or take measures in controlling the local resources or their interactions with the outsiders in the Baiga community. And Elwin proposed that tribal communities should be left alone instead of being acculturated. The only reason is that if they are being acculturated, there is always a danger that they get exploited by the outsiders, because these people are not aware of the dynamics by the outsiders. So this is how Elwin got a reputation, that he proposed this idea of that national parks, that tribes should be remained as they are and they should not be disturbed, and they should be reserved national parks, which he calls as the tribal reserve areas, where outsiders should not go. Elwin not only just restricted himself to Baigas, Elwin studied the Muryas of Bastar region. He produced excellent work on youth dormitories among the Muryas, where he discovered that there is a system called Gothul, which is very famous among Muryas, which gives enough space for the tribal youth to exchange, to get encultured, to prepare for the adulthood by the elder members of that youth. And Muryas have two separate youth dormitories, one for the boys and one for the girls, where the leaders are constant in touch with preparing the younger generation to become elder generation. Now, the anthropological contribution by Elwin is, by focusing these youth dormitories, gave a significant understanding, particularly the socialization and the enculturation process, and how a society maintains its internal dynamics by these youth associations. He has also focused more on the folklore, how certain traditions are being passed from one generation to generation through these institutions. In the study of Borneo Highlanders in Indonesia, he again supported the concept of isolationism, that communities should be isolated with the other communities. And he was criticized by other anthropologists. And his famous work on a philosophy for NEFA, NEFA, Northeastern Frontier Agency. It is a monumental work with then our Honorable Prime Minister Jawaharlal Nehru. With this, he proposed the assimilationist perspective and developed that tribes should be allowed according to their own rules, customs and beliefs. Let us know more about Govind Sadashiv Ghuriye, or called G.S. Ghuriye, born in 1893, survived till 1984. Ghuriye's contribution to social cultural anthropology are very important in a sense that his views about Indian society and culture. Ghuriye attempted a synthesis of Indological and sociological perspectives. Indological in a sense all the studies which related to Indian subcontinent, be it history, religion, folks, myths, and our related things are called Indological, where he combined this Indological and sociological perspective in giving a new perspectives of understanding and conceptualizing Indian society and culture. So Ghuriye believed that culture was the only central and main element of society and even man's evolution from historical perspective. Ghuriye suggested there are five foundations for culture, and these foundations are the religious consciousness among the members, the conscience, justice, tolerance, and the free pursuit of knowledge are very important aspects for any culture. So Ghuriye believed that the existence of an overall cultural unity of Indian population, which has been survived from many centuries. How did this happen? How did this coming toward? Mainly the Hindu population. How could they survive for long periods of time? So Ghuriye believed that this cultural unity was the result of acculturation introduced with the arrival of the Vedic Aryans. Notwithstanding his contributions about the overall structure of Indian society and culture, Ghuriye has also immensely contributed to study caste system and kinship system in India. His monumental work on caste and race in India depicted a comprehensive picture of all the castes, tracing its origin, caste functions, and how it developed and spread. So Ghuriye believed that caste or castes in India is product of Brahminic child, going back to the Indo-Aryan periods of culture, which was cradled from the land of Ganges Valley. Ghuriye never supported caste system and thought that it would weaken the urban environment and it impacts formal education. So Ghuriye emphasized that in the past, kinship and caste system in India, perhaps they could have played an integrated role. The integration of different racial and ethnic groups through kin and caste networks might have helped Indian society to sustain for a long period of time. And Ghuriye showed that through his works that the British rule and governance system created problems in tribal societies and tribal administration. So Ghuriye studied the caste system from both structural and cultural point of view. And again, the caste system is based on the traits like it is based on hierarchy. That means one caste is in the top, another caste. So the rung, you can see the social rung, and all the castes are placed in different hierarchies based on their occupation, based on their historical positioning, which is either historical or perceived. There is a segmented division. Principles of purity and pollution operated between one group and another group. And basically, castes are perpetuated through endogamy. Marrying your own people, marrying your own people. There is no intercaste marriages. And the restrictions on other aspects like dressing patterns, speech, customs, food habits, all comes under as a package in this caste rules and regulations. Because caste operated on this exogamy principle of Gotra, according to Ghuriye's view. But Ghuriye felt that Indian descent has not always been traced through the blood ties. So, Gotra exogamy is an artificial confinement to the marriage partners. But Ghuriye also opined that perhaps caste system became weakened with the advent of British administration. And perhaps there could be kinship ties are very strong, but the still caste consciousness is based on the members who are following all the caste regulations. Ghuriye did not only restrict it to only caste populations. He was more interested even the tribal communities and their positioning in Indian society. Ghuriye observed that certain anthropologists and British officials have supported the isolationist policy that the tribals should be put away from the mainstream of Indian society. But he advocated the assimilationist approach that they should include, and there should be good inclusion of the tribal communities into the mainstream Indian society. That who thought that people of these communities who are called as tribal communities, like they are animists, and it will be a dangerous for the Hindu culture if they come in contact. He did not support that idea. And he advocated that there should be some welfare measures and justice for these tribal communities. Ghuriye's work, the aborigines, so-called, and their future, has put in lot of hope for the tribal communities because he portrayed their problems in a true anthropological sense. He said that tribal should not be called as Adivasis or the aborigines, and they should not be separate, but it should be merged with other social groups, and he should put forward for in all developmental programs for them. Perhaps he believed that tribals could have followed social order and they are being influenced by Christianity to some extent. So in this, we understood the contributions of D.N. Majumdar, who has not only restricted himself in studying Indian society and culture, he has given extensive ethnographic works of tribes in central India. And Majumdar also opined that tribal societies in India need attention and welfare measures should be given to uplift from their social status. And he stressed the importance of studying social institutions and social practices of these traditional communities. Another significant anthropologist is Karve's contributions towards the joint family system, where she said it is an extended kinship system. And the study of the interrelations and interactions of village communities, how a village transforms itself through market economies with the neighboring caste groups. And the other significant works of Warrior Elwins. He is a strong advocate for the tribes from northeast, warranting saying that they should be assimilated properly without disturbing the core cultural elements. And he proposed this model to Indian administration. And we have seen their significant contribution, especially Elwin's work on Maria Gothul, how a youth dormitory is helpful in the process of socializing the adolescents into bigger young adults, and that is how the proper guidance is taken by this internal logic mechanism. And we have understood Ghuriye's contribution in understanding the whole Indian civilizational process, taking the Indological perspective and sociological perspective, and understanding the whole caste system working in many parts of India. And Ghuriye's contribution also towards the backward communities, particularly the tribal communities, and for their upliftment in integrating into the mainstream Indian society.